breaking T's locker room offense. There are days when Santa Clara seems to rumble before the first snap, tough calls, a scan that flips the locker room mood, an unlikely turnaround on hostile turf, and a message straight to anyone doubting our offensive line. Today, every piece locks in like a puzzle that reveals Kyle's plan to uphold the standard of excellence and maybe redefine the offense's ceiling. A big name is involved, a contract that surprises, a test that brings relief, and numbers that silence critics. You won't believe what we've got today. So take a seat, drop a like, and let's jump straight into it. Urgency. Coaching. When a championship-caliber team tweaks the very spot that's supposed to radiate calm, you can feel the atmosphere shift. The locker room gets quieter, coaches keep it short, and every decision runs through cold numbers that have no sympathy for narratives. After a tense opener, it was clear the margin for doubt was zero. The 49ers live on the inches that decide January. When a detail becomes a weekly worry, the bar rises. Kyle Shanahan doesn't sweep problems under the rug. The question was no longer if, but when. The answer came bluntly, quickly, the way serious teams demand. Roster move, kicker change, accountability, special teams, cause and effect. Kyle Shanahan ended the experiment. Jake Moody was waived. It stings to admit because there was talent and investment, but the recent stretch turned every fourth down into avoidable drama. In Seattle's 17-13 win, there was a 27-yard miss and a 36-yard kick blocked. Enough fuel for hours of debate and a flashing red light inside the building. The staff chose to cut the noise and shield the team before Sunday. The message is direct. Nothing can hijack the offense's and situational defense's confidence while the season is still being shaped. Within hours, the gears were already turning to the next chapter. Eddie Pinerro, a veteran, methodical, technically sound, and above all, accurate under pressure. He worked out in Santa Clara, and the front office locked in a one-year deal. It isn't a Band-Aid signing. It's a course correction with a defined profile. What do the 49ers want right now? Stability that turns good drives into automatic 3 points, and someone aligned with the current special teams philosophy. Pinerro arrives with two stamps that matter immediately: consistency and familiarity with how this staff operates. Coaching ties, terminology, stat pack, history. In 2021 with the Jets, Pinerro worked with Brant Boyer, now San Francisco's special teams coordinator, and he was perfect on field goals in that stint. 8 for 8 with 9 for 10 on extra points. There's shared terminology, a memory of adjustments, and trust that's already been built. Add to that the recent resume in Carolina, with 22-26 on field goals and 33-35 on extra points in 2024, plus a career rate north of 88%, and the move stops looking like a gamble and becomes pure pragmatism. And team leaf, Maddie culture at the farm battle recruitery and the fan base by flipping a situation of doubt for a professional with a track record of stability and familiarity with the coordinator. The 49ers lower the noise, change the locker room tone, and give the offense peace of mind to finish drives. Sunday against the Saints, the scrutiny will be immediate, and that's exactly how it should be in Santa Clara, and that wasn't even the most surprising part of the day. There's a fair debate about range on attempts beyond 50 yards, but right now the priority is efficiency from 30 to 49 and a clean operation on snap, hold, and timing. The directive is to win the math of the little things, week after week. There are days when rooting for the 49ers is an emotional roller coaster. One scan can change the mood of an entire locker room, and that's exactly what happened with Ja'Cory Jennings. When he left in the second half against the Seahawks holding his shoulder, it felt like we just added another serious headache. Except to everyone's surprise and relief, the MRI brought good news. Nothing major. Jennings is day-to-day, and suddenly the scene that seemed to be caving in got a breath of hope. The reaction felt like a last-minute, game-winning touchdown. On forums and group chats, even under official posts, the sentiment was immediate relief. Losing Jennings now would have been a gut punch to an offense already adjusting week to week. He isn't the team's #1 wideout, but he's the guy who does the dirty work, blocks, fights for short yards, and keeps drives from dying early. Players like that are truly valued only when they're out, and fans felt that in their stomach when he left the field. But it isn't all sunshine. Jennings' update landed the same day George Kittle was placed on injured reserve. That means at least 4 games without the roster's most charismatic, dominant tight end. Kittle is the offense's emotional engine, the guy who turns blocks into spectacle and catches into sparks that light up the entire stadium. Without him, Shanahan will have to redraw parts of the plan, leaning more on running backs in the passing game and trusting backups who haven't proven consistent yet. It shifts the balance between quick game throws and intermediate routes, demanding much more from Purdy. And speaking of Purdy, there's still a cloud around our quarterback. Left shoulder and big toe remain under observation, and there's no definitive confirmation yet about his status against the Saints. That alone puts everyone on alert. Fred Warner and Trent Williams, 2 pillars of the team, also came out of the last game limping. When leaders of that caliber face any limitation, the locker room feels it and opponents notice too. That's why every medical update becomes an event. It defines not just the week, but even the confidence of everyone wearing red and gold. Amid this sea of uncertainty, the good news on Jennings becomes even more valuable. He may not be the headliner, but he represents stability. The 49ers need exactly that. Reliable pieces that keep the machine turning while others return from injury. Fans know January is decided by roster depth, and Jennings can be that quiet difference maker. The wild part is that this wasn't even the most dramatic revelation early in the week, and you're about to see why. There are wins that don't sparkle in the box score but mean far more than the final tally suggests. The Seahawks game was exactly that. Ugly grinding with execution errors and a tension that made every fan hold their breath. Even so, the 49ers left with the W and, more importantly, reinforced a narrative that's been building since 2022. Brock Purdy simply doesn't lose in Seattle. The number is stark, 4 other as a starter at Lumen Field. No recent 49ers quarterback has built that much confidence on enemy ground. The run started late in 2022, when Purdy was still the improbable rookie playing through a fractured rib and still delivered 2 touchdown passes in a 21-13 win. Since then, every trip to Seattle has turned into a statement chapter, including the Thanksgiving triumph in 2023 and the 3 TD burst in 2024. Performances that, even with ups and downs, forged a mindset the rival's house became a stage for assertion, not intimidation. This latest game, however, was a mixed bag. On one hand, Purdy stacked 265 yards and 2 touchdowns, respectable numbers for any QB in a season opener. On the other, he threw 2 interceptions, the second a classic mistake of forcing the ball where there was no window. It was the kind of play critics flagged in 2023 and many hoped would be cleaned up. The question is that risk-taking simply part of the Purdy package, or are we looking at an early season adjustment time will smooth out? Here's the deeper layer. Purdy isn't the pressure-free underdog anymore. He's a quarterback with a contract status and the responsibility of carrying an entire franchise. That inevitably changes the lens on every snap. Against Seattle, even with mistakes, he showed something that separates greats from the middle tier: poise when it matters. When the clock squeezed, he led important drives and closed the game. That ability to deliver with the walls closing in is what keeps the locker room's confidence in him. And the fan base? You can see the split. Some celebrate the unbeaten streak in Seattle as proof Purdy is a born winner. Others arch an eyebrow at the rushed decisions, worried about what happens in January against complete defenses. That contrast is exactly what keeps the debate hot and the comments buzzing. Is Purdy the locked-in future or a still unfinished product who needs a quick step forward? What's undeniable is that even on off days, Purdy finds a way to win. For a franchise that's chased consistency for years, that's gold. He doesn't need to be perfect every Sunday. He needs to keep being decisive. And while we're debating Purdy's highs and lows, another piece of news shook the offense's structure, and this one might reshape the offensive line's future for years. Not every contract grabs headlines in the NFL, but when the front office puts $45 million on the table, fans' eyes inevitably widen. That's exactly what happened with Colton McKivitz. 3 years, $27 million guaranteed. And a clear message: the 49ers aren't playing around with their offensive line. The truth is, this decision isn't just about McKivitz, it's about the immediate future of quarterback protection and the team's identity. Just look at the context. Trent Williams, our giant on the left, won't be elite forever. Each season raises the question of how long he can hold the highest standard. And if suddenly the 49ers found themselves without Williams and without McKivitz in 2025, that's a nightmare scenario. Hunting for 2 starting tackles in an inflated market. The front office avoided that risk now, ensuring at least one side is locked down. It may feel conservative in the present, but it's strategic when you zoom out. Of course, McKivitz isn't unanimous. Part of the fan base points to shaky moments in big games and trouble against elite pass rushers. But it's also true he's improved since taking over in 2023. Consistency, command of Shanahan's system, and crucially, availability. In a league where average tackles are fetching fortunes, just look at Jalen Moore getting $30 million from the Chiefs to be a premium backup. Keeping someone who's functional and scheme-aligned seems wiser than diving into desperate bidding wars later. There's also an institutional message baked into this deal. The 49ers reward the guys who show up, avoid drama, and do things the right way. McKivitz didn't hold out, didn't skip minicamp, didn't force the issue. He did the work and got... In an era where retention often turns into a power game, this contract signals a standard discipline, and buy-in can be as valuable as flashy stats. It's a quiet message, but a powerful one to the entire locker room. How does it affect this season? Simple. It gives Purdy mental stability. Knowing the right side is secured through 2027 removes the offseason question mark of who's protecting me next year. It also gives the offensive staff continuity instead of redesigning protections every spring. That matters a lot when you talk playoffs in January, where details decide everything. It may not be the headline that makes you shout, but it could be exactly the kind of move that in hindsight looks brilliant. With this contract, the 49ers didn't just fortify their offensive line, they sent a message to the league. We're built to win now without leaving tomorrow exposed. It's the balance between aggression and planning, and that can be the factor that separates just good teams from real Super Bowl contenders. The lingering question, will this extension be seen as savvy boldness or overpriced caution? Only time will tell. Breathe, 49ers faithful. Today we saw a team that doesn't shy away from hard decisions. Out goes uncertainty in the kicking game. In comes stability with Pinerro. A scan spares Jennings from something worse, while Kittle to IR forces immediate adjustments. Purdy wasn't perfect, but he kept that undefeated aura in Seattle and showed cold-blooded composure. McKivitz's extension lowers the noise, preserves continuity, and protects the plan for January. It's about winning the tiny details, week after week, without losing identity. Now I want you in the debate, which move changes our path the most. Drop a like, subscribe, and share. Your voice makes the faithful stronger.